It was a chaotic scene at the Tennessee Capitol yesterday as two black members of the state House of Representatives were kicked out of office by the Republican supermajority. In response, late today, Vice President Harris traveled to Nashville to meet with Democratic lawmakers, including the ones who were expelled. Laura Barone-Lopez has that report.
Do not let this die.
Tennessee Democrats outraged.
I'm asking folks who are mad to stay mad.
And committed to continuing the fight for gun reforms.
They can't silence the thousands of us here who are demanding change. No action, no peace.
After two lawmakers, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, the youngest black representatives in the House, were expelled from the state assembly yesterday.
The 57 Representative District expelled.
We can never normalize the tyranny of the way that these people in positions of power are operating due to white supremacy.
House Resolution 64 fails.
Another lawmaker, Gloria Johnson, a white woman, was spared expulsion by one vote.
America is going to go. That guy is a rock star.
Representative Johnson left with no doubt about why she kept her job while her colleagues did not.
It might have to do with the color of our skin.
Dubbed the Tennessee Three by supporters, the Democrats drew the ire of the Republican supermajority last week after they led protests in support of gun restrictions on the House floor, breaking the rules of the chamber just days after a shooting at a Nashville school left 6 dead, including 3 children.
We called for you all to ban assault weapons, and you respond with an assault on democracy.
The debate to expel the trio lasted hours and was oftentimes contentious.
Just because you don't get your way, you can't come to the well, bring your friends, and throw a temper tantrum with an adolescent bullhorn.
Is elevating our voices for justice or change a temper tantrum? There's something in the decorum of this body that says it's okay to call that a temper tantrum, to call people we disagree with on the issues, to say that all they want is attention. But I'll tell you what, I don't personally want attention. What I want is attention on the issue of gun violence.
Republicans resolute and largely united in their votes and condemnation for the lack of decorum.
He and 2 other representatives effectively conducted a mutiny on March the 30th of 2023 in this very chamber.
There are consequences for action.
The Speaker of the State House last week even comparing the peaceful protests by students and Democrats to the violent January 6 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, a charge Democrats rejected.
I know that rules sometimes have to be broken, and sometimes you have to get in good trouble.
Jones and Pearson are gone from office, but their message is now resonating far beyond the state's borders. President Biden calling their ouster shocking, undemocratic, and without precedent. And late today, Vice President Kamala Harris traveling to Nashville to meet with the current and former Democratic lawmakers.
If it can happen here in Tennessee, it's coming to your state next.
Their absence may be short-lived. The Nashville Council will meet on Monday and could choose to send Jones back to the state capitol until a special election can be held later this year.
For more on what this means for the state of Tennessee, gun violence, and equal representation, I'm joined by Tennessee State Representative John Ray Clemens. He's the House Democratic Caucus Chair. Welcome to NewsHour.
Thank you for having me.
Yesterday, 2 of your caucus members, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, were expelled from the House of Representatives. A third, Gloria Johnson, was not. Representative Johnson said that she thinks it had to do with the color of their skin. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I certainly understandable how some might think that, and it very well may be the case, but I don't know what's in my colleague's heart, and I'd hate to speculate, but I think it's fair to say that my caucus lost 2 very strong voices yesterday, and I look forward to their imminent return to the House, and I hope their local governments reinstate them very soon.
And Republicans said that they broke the rules of decorum by protesting on the floor. Do you think that they should have faced different consequences?
Well, people break decorum or House rules on a daily basis. What they did was approach the well of the House without permission from the Speaker. I think in anyone's estimation, that is a very minor offense or breach of the House rules. Others who have served in the House in recent years who have not even been punished for anything have done far, far worse things, including several who are under federal investigation and have been had criminal charges brought against them. Just this year, we had a member on the Criminal Justice Committee advocate for lynching, which is a hate crime, and he still sits on that committee with no punishment whatsoever. And another last week has been charged with simple assault. He still sits on the House floor with no punishment whatsoever. Only 3 times since the Civil War have members been expelled from the state legislature, and those were for very egregious crimes or conduct. So this is highly inappropriate. It's an extraordinary action that should have never taken place, and it's truly a sad day for our democracy in the state of Tennessee.
And so what comes next for House Democrats in Tennessee? Are there any steps that your caucus can take in response to these expulsions?
You know, Justin Pearson, Justin Jones, and Gloria Johnson have had the full support of our entire caucus, and we're going to continue to fight for them. We do not believe that a 75-member GOP supermajority should silence the voices of over 200,000 Tennesseans who elected to send these individuals to serve in the state legislature. We're going to continue to fight. And, you know, unfortunately, my colleagues across the aisle may have won 2 votes yesterday, but I think they lost in the world of public opinion.
And as you said, both Representative Jones and Pearson could be reappointed to their seats and run in a special election. How can you make sure, though, that the Republican supermajority will seat them?
Well, if their local governments reappoint them to serve in this legislative body and the papers are processed to the Secretary of State's office, they better be seated in the state legislature, or we're going to have a real legal battle on our hands. I don't see any grounds for this supermajority to refuse to seat them in this General Assembly. If they would refuse to seat them, I think you would see this taken to a whole nother level, unfortunately.
And Representative, as you know, this all started after the shooting at Covenant School that left 6 dead, including 3 children. And then the protests on the floor subsequently were about trying to pass more gun restrictions in the state. Where does any of that stand in terms of legislation actually passing through the State House that would restrict guns?
Yeah, unfortunately, our community has been devastated by the loss of those 6 lives at the Covenant School here in Nashville. But, you know, that's only the latest incident of gun violence. Gun violence, it occurs every day in every community across the state of Tennessee too often. And so it is way overdue for solutions. So we're fighting for gun safety measures and a little gun sense legislation. We're talking with our colleagues across the aisle. We requested a meeting with the governor of Tennessee, who refuses to even mention the word gun since the tragedy at the Covenant School.
You mentioned that you're talking across the aisle. I mean, have you heard from any Republicans or independents in recent days, and if they're moved at all by what's transpired over the last week?
I don't question whether people were moved by that tragedy or even gun violence in their own districts. But what we hope, and we continue to get, you know, my colleagues have reached out and they said, hey, we're willing to work with you on something, but, you know, let's keep working. But those are just words. We need to see action. And I appreciate them saying they're willing to work with us. But, you know, we spent the last two weeks or so now being distracted by an expulsion that's completely baseless and undemocratic, instead of focusing on passing gun safety legislation. It's truly demoralizing and an offense, quite honestly, to the victims of gun violence.
What message does it send to other states, to the nation, that Tennessee State House decided to expel 2 young Black representatives who were speaking on behalf of their constituents and on behalf of students who were protesting for more gun restrictions? This
sends an incredibly alarming signal across the country that if you speak up for what you believe as a young Black man or as a lawmaker, you could be expelled from your duly elected position. That is truly alarming, and it's really beyond the pale. It should cause everyone, regardless of where you live or where you are, to rise up and take action and say, you're not going to allow this. You're not going to allow Republicans to expel members just because they disagree with them or don't like them, perhaps, or don't like what they have to say.
And Representative, you're meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris today. What's your message to her?
You know, it it is time we take action at both the federal level and the local level in the state of Tennessee. And I'm going to encourage, her to encourage her friends in the U.S. Senate and the House to do what they can, and we'll try to live up to our end of the bargain as well and continue to fight here in the state of Tennessee.
Representative John J. Clemens, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.